Good morning to those in the West, and good afternoon to those joining us in the East. I'm Robert Menzies, CAMA Manitoba Chapter President and the CAMA National Chair, and I would like to welcome everyone to our webinar featuring AGI's David Postill. Before I turn it over to David, I'd like to thank Annex Business Media for sponsoring the GoToWebinar platform that we're using today, and specifically thanks to Andrea for ensuring everything runs smoothly. I also want to thank the hardworking CAMA Manitoba Volunteer Board who work so hard in putting together this webinar, and really all the directors across the country who do the same. I also want to remind everyone of the membership survey that has arrived just in your inbox earlier this week. And actually, this is the perfect for all of you on this call based on your interest in hearing AGI and the great things they're doing in a virtual world. The topic for this survey is the next generation of ag trade shows. As you all know, our #1 focus at CAMA is always to be offering value to your members. As we've all been pivoting in our agri-marketing initiatives due to the disruptive nature of the new normal, many of us are needing to figure out how to replace or adapt to our reliance on our all-beloved farmer trade shows. David's topic today is actually a great introduction to this. At CAMA National, we are developing a two-prong approach to support all of us with dealing with new virtual opportunities and needs. The first is the survey that I just referenced that's been sent out. We've developed a handful of questions where we need your input. Once we receive it, we're going to analyze the findings and develop some themes and categories. These findings will then be used in our second prong, which is a national agri-marketing industry virtual brainstorm working session. This session, of course, will include you, where we'll be asking you to actively participate in this brainstorm working session. We'll also be inviting the trade show and event organizers and media companies to participate to offer their perspective and what they'll be doing to provide new and exciting opportunities for all of us. And of course, we can't forget about our farmers, which is the reason why we do what we do. So we'll be inviting a handful to also join us to provide their insight into what they're wanting from us and the next generation of trade shows. So please spend a few minutes answering our questions, hopefully before the deadline of November 6th. So we have lots of feedback, which will really help with the virtual brainstorm session. And stay tuned for your invitation to join the virtual brainstorm working session, which is scheduled for early December. During David's presentation, if there are questions, please do type them into the questions box in the control panel. I'll be monitoring those, and we'll be asking as many of those questions and hopefully as hard questions as possible for David at the end of his presentation. This webinar is being recorded, and the link will be emailed to participants within 24 hours for your additional viewing pleasure and to listen to all the great insight that David's given us today. So on to David. David Postill is the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Customer Experience at AGI. He provides leadership to All Global, which consists of over 100 countries for AGI, and local marketing activities across all AGI divisions. In addition, he is responsible for the Enterprise Digital Technology and Project Management team and directs cross-functional CX across the company. Prior to AGI, David has held several C-level leadership roles across various categories and companies. His career has its earliest roots with advertising agencies, where he rose to leadership positions in Y&R and BBDO, having led agency relationships with Kraft, Bayer, Mars, Pfizer, and Ford of Canada. Not too shabby, David. For today, David is going to be focusing on change and what AGI has been doing to adapt to the new normal, specifically the customer experience journey. So please, everyone, let's welcome David Postill.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks. Very nice to be with everyone here today, and thanks for joining on this webinar. I think this is a good example of one of the great things that COVID has resulted in. We can join these webinars, we can join conferences that maybe we didn't have time for before or took a lot of time out of our day. Now we can kind of jump on, engage, learn something, and get back to our endless stream of Zoom and Teams and go-to meetings that run in the course of the day. So it's brought lots of good things, but it has brought some bad things, and that's the ask I'd like to make of everybody watching today is COVID has also created a risk of mental health problems, anxiety problems, and we know only too well in agriculture the extent to which those already existed. So if you need help, reach out. If you know someone who needs help, reach out to them. Take your time. We as a community have to look after each other. And there are some amazing resources, Do More Ag, Farm Credit Canada, 4-H, the canola growers in Manitoba. There's some great organizations that are working in the mental health space. So your responsibility is to look out for your peers and to look out for each other. And like, I guess it may be becoming trite now, but we are all in it together and we'll help each other that way. So on to our topic today, we're going to talk about the customer experience journey and what we've learned at AGI. And boy, we've learned a lot. And despite Robert's glowing introduction, I am very blessed to have a terrific team of people who work with me and really are the engine behind all of our accomplishments. If I do anything as a leader, I help really bring together and enable their success. And what we've done at AGI over the last few years is a tribute to just an absolutely terrific team all over North America. We're very fortunate to have people in Winnipeg, in Ontario, in Toronto, embedded across the US and Kansas and Illinois, and increasingly global because our reach now, AGI that is, our reach now is into well over 100 countries and we continue to grow. So we're going to talk about customer experience. Now, a lot of companies are familiar with the concept of customer experience, but how they embrace it varies widely from company to company. Building an experience stream, building an experience strategy is much more than just managing your call center, much more than just managing your contact points. It's about flipping the lens around. It's about looking at things from the customer's perspective, planning, developing, strategizing, listening to their needs, and then developing solutions that help them do more business with you, make the business they do with you that much better, and to enrich the experience. So as much as we talk about journey mapping and social media and target understanding and promotions and networks, we always begin by looking at it from the customer's experience. What do they need and how can we help them be more successful? If we've done anything right over the last couple of years at AGI, it is really that relentless commitment to our customers. So let's get into what we've been doing and how we've been doing it. I think there's one thing I would like to say, or one real message that I would encourage you all to take away, is success today in marketing, success in CX really, truly begins by being adaptable. You know, when I started in my career in the early 90s, we would spend months planning marketing campaigns, months developing strategies, testing strategies, doing pre-research, focus groups, testing concepts, doing post-research, planning the whole year out, and then executing. You know, almost 30 years later, we're completely upside down on that now, almost the total reverse. Now, strategy and planning has to be contained and confined to a very small portion of the exercise because we have to continue to iterate and adapt throughout the journey. You know, we've learned only too well in the last 10 months how everything can be turned upside down. And that's not a new thing. That's a thing that's been happening for a while. Technology has been disrupting and changing business for some time. COVID has accelerated those changes. So adaptability, versatility, flexibility, however you want to define it, that notion of being able to get up every day, come to work and find new solutions to existing problems or new solutions to different problems is the core thing you need to do to be successful in CX, in technology, and I think in the next generation ahead of us, that is the single thing we need to focus on. But let's drill down into some of the lessons that we've been learning here at AGI. And I've plotted them out on the screen here, and I'm going to walk through each one for a couple of minutes now, and then we'll go into some of the examples that we've done at AGI for each one of these areas. So what have we learned? Let's start from the beginning. We've learned that the fundamentals are essential. You have to do the fundamentals right. We've also learned that you've got to embrace what has now become a virtual century. Now we have to embrace that virtual century, but we have to balance it with a digital and a human solution. As much as digital technologies are a wonderful boon to us and they offer so much more for us to do terms of connecting with our customers and making it easy to do business with us. People like people, and we have to remember that, even though we might be, speaking through webcams and learning and teaching and buying and selling online, that human interaction is still essential. And then critically, number 4 is you've got to build a structure, a team, an approach that is designed for a fast changing world. And we'll talk a little bit about agile. I'm sure many of you heard about agile technologies, agile methodologies. It emerged out of the software industry, and there's a lot of great lessons to be learned there. But we don't have to get too scientific about it to know that we've got to build a team that's adaptable and flexible and that is ready to fight those challenges. So let's recap the core elements. What do I mean by doing the fundamentals right? Care and connection is everything, right? People like people. And if we care for our employees, we care for our customers, and we care for our communities, then we're going to do well. And that's a first principle that, they say the best business sense is common sense. That's just normal common sense. But it's hard to do at times, right? Are you going to put your employees first? We've been tested over the last 10 months in exactly that way. Are we going to put our employees first? Are we going to put our customers first? Are we going to put our communities first? And I think that this is a bigger thought than marketing. It's probably a bigger thought than even business. And the last point I make in this column is exactly that. How we approach business with empathy, with decency, is vastly more important than anything we're going to do in terms of building a marketing campaign or designing a new brand label or coming up with some sort of cool technology. It's those leadership values of empathy and decency that will guide us forward. It's what has made, so many communities thrive and battle COVID successfully, because we've had that let's look out for each other attitude. We've had that desire to show empathy to each other. Well, that's exactly the core thing you need to embed in your customer journey, in how you approach business. If you are truly caring for your customers, well, then they're gonna see that. They're gonna appreciate that, and they will likely repurchase because of that. There's a study out recently by McKinsey that has shown that midway through COVID, purchasing behaviors had changed by more than 50%. So 50% of people out there had said they now buy in totally different ways and on totally different criterias. So of course, things like price matter. Of course, things like availability matters. But decision making has changed, and we've got to be at the forefront of that. Are we doing the right things? Are we contributing as a business in the right way? Are we giving back to our communities? At AGI, we have a philosophy, really. It begins from one of our core values. In our core values, we hold that, communities are critical to who we are. We're a company that was started in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. We're a company that continues to manufacture in small centers all over the world. So giving back to those communities is essential. So we created this idea we call the Peloton, the AGI Peloton. It's a metaphor taken from cycling, actually. When cyclists are in a group, they shape what is called a peloton, and that efficiency of cycling together creates a group effect, if you will, and makes it easier for everyone. Well, we believe we have to include our communities in our peloton, and in doing so, we make our business stronger, our employees stronger, and our communities stronger. So thinking about that from the lens of not just what your employees need, not just what your customers need, but what your communities need is an essential part of doing the fundamentals right. Now, the second point is the virtual century. Let's talk about that. For those of you of the same vintage, I can tell a story from my childhood. In 1983, my dad came home with one of the first portable compact computers that had been really invented at that point. And it was about the size of a suitcase, and it had a tiny little screen about this big, and the end flipped down. And ever since that day, I've loved technology. So the fact that we have been in this, or we've entered into this technology century, it is truly exciting. It's going to create so much wonderful good in the world. But the onus is on us as marketers, as business people, to meet our customers where they are, and that's in the digital domain. We know already, I think the numbers are trending probably even higher, but it's somewhere between 40 and a 50% increase in all participation of social media. So think about that. Social media has gone up 50% in terms of activity. Think about your own experience of how often you're online now, how often you're engaging in multiple channels. Google has reported the same sort of trending, largely seeing massive increase in search activity. We've seen massive growth in online activity, online shopping, e-commerce, and some of that is never going back. Think about your own behavior. How often are you willing to, put on a mask, follow the procedures, go into a store and pick out a pair of running shoes, or are you just going to order it online? Behaviors are changing. Channel behaviors are changing, and we have to think about what we're going to do to address those changes. So meeting customers where they are at, well, you've got to think about bringing together your offline and your online resources to be a holistic solution. So if I'm calling the customer service rep, they better be able to find a part through your own systems. They better be able to email me an answer to the question. It's not to say that we won't have human-to-human interaction. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But those interactions have to be knitted together seamlessly to create a great experience. Big change, customers are more informed than ever before. I'm sure it's true in most of the categories for the folks on the call today, but we are acutely seeing it, that our end users are coming into our dealer customers more knowledgeable about our equipment than they've ever been before. They've studied the models, they know what their issues are, they know what they're looking for, almost to the extent that they know more, in some cases, than the salespeople taking care of them. What does this mean? This means we've got to change how we're approaching communication. We've got to change how we're developing channels. It means we've got to change how we create any amount of information, from small pieces like brochure to big pieces like manuals. We've got to think about our end users knowing often more about our equipment than ever before, and what are we going to do to support them in those needs? Which leads us to content. Content is always important. Now it's critically important. Good content wins the day every time. Now you've got to step back, audit your content, look at what you have offline, look at what you have online, and really hold that up to a microscope to go, is what we have good enough? And maybe it is, but I promise you the volume of content you have is not enough. The consumption of content, again, we're back to that up 40 or 50% on social media, up on content consumption. We need to embrace this world of content like never before and create more and interesting pieces of content. Lastly, I want to touch on savings in this category, because technology comes at a cost. Websites, email marketing software, you name it. It comes at a cost, and we can't be afraid of finding savings in other parts of the business. We're seeing transition with traditional media companies. Yes, they still have their great publications. Yes, they are also introducing new solutions like email marketing, solutions like database marketing. We've got to balance what we're spending on, what we're investing in, and what we can save. Marketing should never be afraid to sit down with the CFO, never be afraid to sit down with finance and find ways to be more effective, to be more efficient, to deliver more ROI for the organization. The days of sort of hiding behind, big brand ideas and cool concerts and exciting things you can put on, they're long gone. We have to demonstrate commitment to the enterprise, commitment to the business, and we do that by showing that while we need to invest here, we're going to find efficiencies there. The digital and the human. Okay, there's a ton of touch points we need to create in the digital world, but none of them negate the need for human interaction. It can be an empowering change. Customers of all types want the same and different. They want the same sort of information. They want the same sort of person they've talked to for years, but they also need it faster, quicker, online, and in my phone. So you've got to bring the two together. They're harmonious. Think about the opportunities. We're very lucky at AGI. We have an extraordinarily good sales force, very, very talented, very experienced, really top level people across North America. Technology, webinars, and as I'm going to show you our AGI Live concept in a couple of minutes, This has allowed our people to reach more customers, to touch them more often, to build deeper relationships. It hasn't been a barrier, it's been an enabler. So when you do have those face-to-face meetings, they matter, but we have plenty of time. And fair enough, maybe occasionally we go too far with Teams and Zoom meetings on the other side of things, but there's plenty of ways for us to deepen and enrich relationships, start new relationships. We've onboarded, 2 or 3 people in our marketing department over the course of COVID, and we've done that online through Zoom in ways we thought would never work, but have proven to be very effective. We've done equipment training in ways that we thought would never work, now are the standard for us. So it's bringing that human and the digital together, and the people who do that, well, their CX is not only going to be better, their experience is going to drive greater sales, both in the short term and in the long term, and the loyalty they will reap from that will be tremendous. So lastly, to explain this notion of building teams for a changing world, everybody's going to be different at this. So I can't throw up an org chart and say, this is the team you need to put on the ground, because everybody's business is different. But you've got to think about your team structure in terms of capabilities. What capabilities do you need in the organization? What are mission critical to you? Maybe it's strategy, maybe it's digital, maybe it's core marketing functionality, pricing, placement, promotion. What are those? And then what resources don't you need? What resources could be procured on a contract basis with an agency partner? And there are some great agencies in the ag space that can become critical partners to your business. You can't approach this by thinking everything is going to be in-house. And you can't approach this by thinking everything is going to be outside of the house. You've got to create a team structure that is built around unique resources that can be knitted together through values, through beliefs, through vision, and through leadership. And when you do that, you create the capacity to swell your organization, shrink your organization, to pivot your organization, to not get trapped in sort of biases that allow you not to think outside what we've done in the past. Building that competency begins with individuals. And so, the challenge is on the leaders in the group to go, okay, who am I adding to the team? Who am I training on my team? Am I mentoring them, coaching them, developing them? Are we bringing them the opportunities where they can grow as a professional? And, sometimes we like to tell ourselves we're doing that. And in fact, we're not. So we've got to be willing to look in the mirror and go, okay, we've done a good job here, but maybe not a good job there. And so what do we do about it? This is the core notion. Never be afraid of failure. Never be afraid of doing something wrong. Iterate, try it again, do something new, stretch and reach, and you will always be positively rewarded by those accomplishments. I'm going to mangle the quote. I love it, but as Gretzky would say, skate to where the puck is going, right? Don't be too worried about where the puck is now. Build for the future. These are really the 4 core lessons I think we've learned at AGI in the last year. Doing the fundamentals right, improving what we have, websites, customer service, you name it. Addressing the virtual challenge, addressing the need to go more digital, but balancing that with a need for people, with humanity, and then not being afraid to change, pivot, learn, adapt, and do new things that maybe work, maybe didn't work. There's plenty of examples I'm going to show you as we walk through the next few slides, where I can tell you the story was how we got it wrong the first 3 times, but eventually we got it right. And that's the magic, right? You're going to try, you're going to iterate, and you're going to get it right. And you're going to be successful when you do. So let's look a little bit closer at what we've been doing at AGI and bring these 4 areas to life so you can have a better idea of, what does it look like today? What are the things we need to do? We're a large multi-line equipment company. We do everything from single pieces of equipment on the farm to large engineered to order commercial installations. How are we addressing these challenges, both in Canada and the US and around the world? Let's take a look in the next couple of slides. The first point I want to make is all about content planning. Everything begins with an effective content plan. And you don't have to make everything new every time. It's about using content effectively, reusing content where it makes sense, and developing new content when you need to. run a content audit. Start and just put in a file folder on your computer, spread it out on the boardroom table if you need to. Look at what the content you have and figure out how it goes together. Create content themes, and those themes will be the backbone for, if you will, the search phase, the phase where people are exploring your products and trying to determine, do you suit my needs? Are you offering the types of features, benefits that will make me successful? Begin with a content audit. That will lead you to your channel strategies, and you'll be able to build communication plans that mirror the journey customers are going through. Once we did that, we turned our attention to our websites. And as we grew as a company through acquisition, this was an area where we could have incredible efficiency. Bringing our websites together, launching a global content management system, creating a modern visual language that would explain the AGI brand and champion the great pieces of equipment we offer was essential. And we built initially from a digital first strategy. So we challenged ourselves by saying, okay, if the next 10 years are all about digital, we have to build for where we want to be in 10 years, not where we were. Don't make a website for yesterday, make a website for tomorrow. And so we looked at everything we did and we said, okay, how do we create information? What type of content are we going to need? And how do we build that out? And we're super pleased, we've, just to pump our tires a little bit, won a bunch of awards for our web design and our web approach. We're super proud of that. But we've seen massive increases in traffic, massive increases in engagement, stickiness of content, our ability to capture leads, names, addresses. It begins with that thought that the website is your heart of your activity. And with the right analytics, again, nothing is perfect, right? We got lots of stuff wrong. We said, okay, this content's not working. No one's reading it. No one's engaging it. No one's sharing it. Get it out. Let's get new content in. Let's write something that's more effective. It's that continual iteration through data and analytics, through measurement, that will make your work products really stick and really effective. Customers are shopping, they're searching for content, they're, Googling your products, they're landing on your website, and now is the time to provide them an experience, a showcase, if you will, that really makes your messages sing. Just as important is that outward facing is the inward facing resources we have to create to support our dealer network. We're a terrific company making wonderful pieces of equipment, but we are very fortunate to have outstanding dealers that are our business partners all over the world. And providing our business partners, providing our dealer channel the tools they need to be successful is really the magic, right? It's getting them, payback calculators, brochures, co-op programs, warranty registration tools, contests, product information, you name it. That dealer support is essential. We sell equipment in North America largely to dealers, and those dealers sell it to growers. So we have a vested stake, beyond a vested stake, in helping our dealers be successful. And I'm not embarrassed to say there are times where we get it wrong, and we hear from our dealers loud and clear, you got it wrong. But we're in it together. We're in a partnership together, and we look for ways to enhance each other's experience so that our business in totality is successful. That's what a win-win is with a dealer channel. One-to-one marketing, it is still a truism. As much as we might all roll our eyes and go, I still can't believe this. Email marketing is pretty much consistently the most efficient, highest ROI marketing you can do. Well, what are you doing in that area? Now, first of all, I'm not inviting you to spam anybody, and we all get a lot of spam. But the valuable content you can get, the lead activation, if you will, the trip to create intention to buy through email marketing can be magic. The best retailers do it out there, whatever you're signed up for. If you're signed up for a newsletter at one of your favorite stores, if it's a good store, if it's a good campaign, they're emailing you content that makes you go to the website and take a look at their products. Well, the same is true for us. We have to connect with our end users. Here's an example, for example, from the commercial side of our business, either fertilizer or temporary storage, where we're talking to commercial companies and going, okay, how can we help you be successful? We're all in it together, right? There isn't this magic mirror that says, okay, when I go to work and I work in a B2B company and I do commercial installation, it doesn't mean my need for simple information sourcing, ability to find answers to questions doesn't change. We have to recognize that those same dynamics that we're applying in our personal life, one-click buy, easy Googling, well, they apply to our work life. And are we providing the right solutions at the right time to move people through the purchase funnel? One-to-one marketing, email marketing is an exceptionally good way to do that. Okay, social media. Let's stop here for a minute. So, getting the basics right is important. Websites, dealer communications, email marketing, but the virtual century is taking off. And now we really need to turn our attention to what are we doing in places like social media? Well, we have had a tremendous increase in content and post volume since March. And we see no slowdown in engagement, no slowdown in pass-through. We've seen an uptick in the number of followers. We're creating the amount of followership we're deriving from the content. It's almost an unquenchable thirst right now in social for good, reliable, meaningful content. Again, content is king. It's got to be good. It's got to say something of value. If you're just spamming people, if you're just pushing a hard sell and not adding value to somebody's engagement with you, well, then you're going to get nowhere. But we look at it and go, how can we educate? How can we inform? How can we build deeper relationships? How can we champion our product benefits? How can we do innovative contests? How can we bring the whole gamut of AGI solutions together and really help people understand who we are? Lots of innovative ways to do that. We're going to look at AGI Live. We're going to talk about our virtual showroom. We created a trade show hub. We'll talk about trade shows in a couple slides. This is the way you bring your content to life. And remember where I started. I started with a content plan. What do you have? What do you need? What are the gaps? Start building them out and start placing them. Again, all of this stuff is easy to do. It takes very little science. We use a lot of data analytics, but you don't necessarily have to. You can learn as much from the LinkedIn platform or from Google Analytics as you can from any paid service you're going to buy. The point is looking for those answers to go, okay, this is working and this isn't. So right where I started, remember I talked to you about how things have changed and how strategy took up so much space before. Well, strategy has shrunk down and analytics has grown. Analytics and understanding what's working and what's not working, critical to your success going forward. And then partnerships, right? You're not in it alone. We've developed a couple of fantastic initiatives that we're super proud of. One is with AgVisor Pro, and I'll touch on that in a second. Another Western Canadian startup that is a terrific company that's adding value to end users, that's getting them the information, that's assisting the dealer community, helping the OEM community. We're doing some awesome things with AgVisor Pro. You should check them out. I think they have Uberized questions and answers for end users, and they're going to be a great success in the future. And we're very pleased to be part of their platform and helping our customers that way. And then we've embraced some of the tactics that are out there. You see one here from Amazon. You can ask Alexa what the price of corn is, and she'll tell you it's brought to you by AGI, and this is what AGI thinks. There's great stuff going on here that adds value to people's needs. If you haven't started to think about what is your voice strategy, what is your audio strategy, you should, because this is the tip of the iceberg. Where we're at in 5 years in terms of audio and voice controls, we're only seeing the beginning. So try something, take a step, dip your toe in, pick your metaphor. But the goal is to try new things, explore, and to see what works for your business, your category, your company. What is the second largest search engine in the world after Google? YouTube. You need a massive YouTube strategy. And you can see here an example of the things that we have going on in YouTube, where we have put a lot of emphasis on our content. Again, I hope you're starting to see the theme here. Content plan, reuse content, customize. Some of the things here you might watch and you go, wow, that's really low budget. Well, that's great. It often indicates that it's more authentic and consumers like it more. If you don't spend any time on YouTube, maybe your kids do, take a few minutes to spend some time on there and look at what's on YouTube, and you can find an answer to anything. Well, we've got to be part of that community. We've got to be part of that with content, whether it's innovative seminars we're putting on, virtual product experiences, customer testimonials, panels we're doing. YouTube is a tremendous repository. And again, the interaction, the knitting together of the different channels so that you're driving social media activity with YouTube content that maybe links over to your website or your website over to your YouTube channel. It's a spider web. And there's no real magic to this. The idea is to create content that's relevant at all the different buying points. So whether I'm searching, I'm in an awareness stage, whether I'm at a moment of purchase, whether I'm in an ownership experience and ready to repurchase or consider something new, you plot your content against that journey and you figure out what places does it make sense, and you figure out how you can reuse, leverage, adjust, adapt, and optimize based on actual results. Okay, AGI Live. Now bear with me, I'm going to flip the screen here for a second. I'm going to show you a quick video. I'm going to talk to you about what we've been doing here on this really cool AGI Live initiative. Okay, now I think I've done that correctly, and it looks like I'm back, but Andrea will probably tell me if I'm not, but all looks good here. That's AGI Live. So let's rewind a little bit back to March when COVID first struck and the trade shows started dropping like flies. We were like, what is going to happen? We rely on trade shows to get product news out, do training, information. How are we going to explain our capabilities? What are we going to do with everybody locked down? We jumped into this concept of live webinars right from the get-go, and we put together an idea that would, bring to life AGI equipment, AGI content, engage with our customers, find new people, and really educate and to some degree position and demonstrate to the market how great our staff, our technology, our expertise, our brand esteem is in the sectors. And this was a roaring success, and it continues to be a roaring success. People need content, and great ways to find it is webinars like these, whether it's for 10 people or 50 people, or in this case, 4,000 people. A lot of people need content on their terms. So, this webinar, for example, will be emailed out. People can watch it and have a glass of wine or drink a beer or enjoy it or not enjoy it, and let us know what they think. The same is here. So whether it is content on portable handling, drying and aeration, describing and bringing to life how we build a grain port, how we build a terminal, this kind of content is what you need to create. And essentially, it's as close to free as you're going to get, okay? You're using your own staff, our own people, our own customers for testimonial. You're using your Zoom or GoToWebinar subscription, you're recording. It takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of polish, but this is the content. This is sort of the beginning of the trade show of the future. And as we get into talking about farm progress in a second here, you're going to see a lot of these things are happening all over the place. What will differentiate them is the quality of your content and your expertise. So if you have that expertise, you have something, get it out there. Find a way to get it out there. And maybe you have something really good, but you just can't get the attention. Well, that's when you partner. You partner with groups like Real Ag and Sean Haney. You partner with the Machinery Pizza of the world, and you do things with them to leverage their followership and build attention to your brand. There is so much to be done here, and we're just scratching the surface. We've moved on from AGI Live and done dedicated, targeted initiatives that live within its universe. So we did a specialized series for our fertilizer customers. We did a specialized Q&A for temporary storage. We have a new software platform we call AGI SureTrack, a terrific solution that really builds off the strength of bin monitoring. It's just an unbelievably awesome equipment technology solution. We do weekly dedicated coffee talks around that, talking about, how to dry your grain, how to store your grain, how to grow for a purpose, how to build your farm business, how to secure premiums. And we regularly get thousands of viewers signing up for these things. And again, when the content's valuable, nobody cares if they give you their name and address, right? It's an exchange. I'm not going to give you my name and address if the content is crap, frankly. But if the content is good, you better believe I'll give you my name and address because you're helping me. Right back to that essential sort of leadership, empathy, and decency. It can't be about selling. It can't be a one-way street. It's got to be a two-way street. So we used AGI Live as a way to launch a virtual showroom. So at many of the large ag shows, we have very significant installations that you can go and visit, walk in a bin, see the handling equipment, touch the conveyors, do whatever. But a lot of that was cut off for our customers. So we took the challenge to go, how do we bring these things to life for people in a way that they can enjoy them at their house? Well, 3D renders, that's a direct way. Photorealistic renders, allowing people multiple views, swivel. We've all done it. We've all bought a car. We've all gone online and done a build and price online. Well, the same is true for farm equipment. The same is true for so many categories. We developed this and launched it into a virtual showroom that would create an immersive 360-degree experience for our customers and allow them to really see, experience, touch, and feel the equipment. And again, remember how I said customers are coming in more knowledgeable than ever. Don't resist those trends. Build on them, amplify them, be part of them, give them the things they need and the information they want to shop for your product. When you do that, you're creating utility. Your interests and their interests are aligned, and your brand will benefit because of it. Robert touched on this, and I think CAMA is going to lead a great session to talk about the trade shows of the future and what they look like. And we could talk about Ag in Motion, which did a great job, with almost zero time going from an in-person event to a digital event. Farm Progress, which many of you are familiar with in the US, is an enormous show, getting about 300,000 visitors. Did the same thing. They went from in-person to virtual, and they did a very good job of building out the things they thought that would work. Now, I think we're at the early days on this, and we've got to really push and pull and challenge some of these organizations to go, is this adding enough value? Is it at the right time of year? And if it is adding value, how do we know that? What measurements are essential? What is the right way for us to participate? We did, trade show presence, if you will, on-demand sessions. We created our own specialized hub that would showcase the products that we felt were most relevant to the audience that would likely be there. And we amplified it with contests, promotions, and added experiences that would really bring the thing to life. We're pretty pleased with the virtual experiences, with the overall partnership we've had with the farm shows and the trade shows that have pivoted to the digital. But there's more to be done here, because as I mentioned, we did our own experience, our own AGI Live, and we learned a ton. And now, if we're going to partner with other companies, partner with other trade shows, the question we ask ourselves is, are we going to be lost in the mix? Are we better to do our own targeting? This sort of workshop that Robert alluded to at the start of this will be essential, because we've got to create a win-win the way physical trade shows were in the virtual world, or whatever the new 2.0 trade show looks like in the future, so that we go back to that win-win and it makes sense to be there and offer that communal experience to our customers. Now, you can't do it all yourself, right? You need partners. You need, in a digital world, to look around and go, who's doing it right? This is a terrific family, the Welker Farms family. And they have I forget the numbers now. I think it's over 1 million followers. It's a huge number, gigantic followership online. They do a great series of YouTube videos. And again, if you can't get the eyeballs, partner with people who are getting the eyeballs and find a win-win for them. We've had such tremendous time working with this Welker Farms, building bins, adding smooth wall, testing our equipment, trying our technologies. It's really voice of the customer brought to life in a way that's interesting and meaningful for so many other customers to watch. Amplify your efforts, find value through partnership, which is exactly what we've done with AgVisor Pro. And again, just to touch on this for a quick second, a great startup in Canada. They're bringing questions and answers to farmers on their phone the moment they need it, whenever they need it, wherever they are. You log in, you say, I need to talk to an expert about this, and boom, within minutes, your phone is finding them and calling them. Well, we've put some of our best people on this platform to pilot this project, and we've been super pleased with the results. And again, this isn't to displace what our dealers do. Our dealers are busy. They need more help. But how do you add those experts? How do you get that help? Well, this is a surefire way to do that, to amplify your efforts. So it's a win-win, right? Everybody's winning because of this. But most importantly, the customer is winning. And when the customer wins, everything else is gravy. So I've kind of walked us through the core fundamentals, the digital century, if you will. I've showed you how real people, human people, are using technology to connect with them. And at the end of the day, it becomes a question of how do you build an organization for change? And I mentioned this right off the bat. You see a bunch of our AGI team here, and they've all done just outstanding work, adapting to a virtual way of doing business, servicing our customers, servicing end users, collaborating together. It's the people. At the end of the day, it's the people that will make the difference in your organization, that their attitude, their ability, their willingness to change, their willingness to try new things. And trust me, I get that not everybody is maybe blessed with the same kind of group that we're fortunate to work with at AGI. But things are changing. People are changing. Everybody is adapting. The COVID was an accelerant. It forced change. It wasn't optional. Businesses will simply disappear if they don't have a digital strategy. Businesses will simply disappear if they can't find a way to communicate through the channels that people are listening to. So find the people in your organization that are seeing this, getting this, make them evangelists, make them part of your team, and together you'll do just amazing things. So with that, I'm going to get Robert back on the line and say thank you very much. I think we've covered a ton. I hope I haven't gone too far over time here. I've been watching the clock. I've touched on the 4 elements, and if you have questions, I don't know if I'll open the chat window here to see if anything was posted. If we get a couple of questions, be happy to talk to them, and we'll go from there. But if I leave you with one last thought, it's where I started. Be adaptable. Try some things, do something new, experiment. This is probably the best time to be in marketing in the last 30 years. And I think agriculture is the best sector to be in any sector right now. It is the most dynamic with the most interesting challenges going on, and the best people who are doing essential work for our society, feeding the planet. You're not going to get it any better. You're not pushing chocolate bars. You're not selling, fried chicken. You're feeding the planet. You're doing something good for people. And so being part of this sector and being part of this category and doing good work in it, boy, it doesn't get any better than that. So Robert and Mary, thanks for inviting me. I hope I haven't gone on too long here. And if there are questions, be happy to circle back and answer some of them now.
Thank you very much, David. Actually, good segue there when you were ending on talking about your team and the acknowledgement that maybe not everybody has a team that AGI has and that work with you. And that was actually where Amanda McFarland was going as well with her question. She wanted to get a sense of the structure of your marketing team, both internal and if you do work with some suppliers on the outside. You're muted, David.
A meeting doesn't go by where that doesn't happen to me. Okay, yeah. So suppliers and team members. All right. I think that there is quite a volume of talent out there. Now we've got to open our blinders and say, okay, we now work from home. I could hire someone from anywhere. So you've got to be more open-minded about where you're going to find talent. And there's a ton of freelance support in Winnipeg, in Saskatoon, in Calgary, in Toronto that you can tap in very easily. We work with pretty much all the major ad agencies across Western Canada, a few in the US as well, a couple in South America. I'd recommend them all, and I'd recommend none of them, because what I would say is you got to find somebody that's right for your culture and right for your team. I think it's my personal philosophy is to start small. It's to find a couple of freelance talent that you can add to your team. Maybe it's for a short-term contract, and that will hopefully start you building the business case, right? I think the best way to grow a marketing team, the best way to get the right resources is to do small projects, prove the value, prove what's working, and then ask for the resources. If you go at it the other way and you say, look, I can't do anything if I don't have a big agency, and I can't do anything like that, well, you've got an uphill fight on your hands. And maybe you'll get there, but I think if you bite this in small bites, incremental change, iterative change, that's the way to go. But I would start with freelance.
You've answered a number of the questions actually just naturally in your presentation, but I didn't want to circle back with, you were talking a little bit about the dealer network and how AGI's internal team needs to support that group. But can you talk to us a little bit about the trifecta of sales, marketing, and your dealer network, and really in what everything you presented and all the new things that AGI has launched, how did those three integral parts come together, and how do they support each other and leverage each other?
Yeah, well, I'd start with sales. Okay, so sales and marketing are like two sides of the same coin. So you should have an outstanding relationship with your sales team, and that relationship should lead you to real insights. So what are they really facing on the ground when they go to sell something? And that sales dynamic leads you to thinking about your dealers. So if you approach this by only we win and the dealers lose, or we gotta jam more equipment through this channel and we've got to do it, then you're going to fail. You're going to fail from the beginning. You've got to understand how we work together as a collective. And the right way to do that, I think, is sales. That's your first step. Now, I'll also say, talk about confirmation bias. That's a good place where you're going to bump into it with your sales team, right? So you need to talk to them about going, okay, what haven't we done? So fair enough, maybe this didn't work 5 years ago, but what if it's going to work now? And when did we last sit down with our customers and say, hey, in an honest to goodness way, this isn't personal. This is not about whether you like Dave or you like Bill or you like whomever or you like Robert. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? That kind of openness and transparency starts the conversation in a good place. And then don't be afraid to work with them. So we worked, with some of our largest customers in Western Canada to prototype what our dealer portal should look like. And we sat down with them and said, we got all sorts of ideas that we think are right, but if they don't help you, then why are we doing this? You won't use it and we'll get frustrated and it'll be a waste. So let's talk about the things we can do together. So how do we better sell into you, and how do you better sell out to the end user? And when you have that discussion, that open dialogue, well, then you quickly get to, oh, well, this would help us a lot and that would help us a lot. Well, that would be great because I got these product managers and they know tons of stuff about the belt conveyors and augers, and I can bring the right solutions together. So I think there's a couple of magic beans that I'm hinting at here. One is this real partnership with sales. And if you don't have a great partnership with sales, you got to start there. And once you have that partnership, then you've got to encourage a really fact-based voice of the customer. Let's not be, because look, we're all human, right? Like I don't want to take you in and introduce you to my customer only to have the customer, crap all over me and you to hear how bad I'm doing, right? Nobody wants that. I don't want that either, but I also can help you with that problem if that's going on. And I can also help the customer do better if they're struggling in some areas of it. So once we get past that sort of that trust layer, and we get everybody together and we work as a team, it shouldn't really matter who's who. Good ideas should come from everybody. That for me is like the penultimate success is when you can bring those three groups into a room and you actually don't know who is who. Who's in marketing, who's in sales, who's the dealer, I don't know. We're all working together for the customer, the end user.
I really like what you were talking about at the beginning, and it's actually quite kind of funny. I wrote down everything that is old is new again, and that relates to putting the customer first. So I love the idea of doing that content audit that you referenced, and then basically the channels to develop those to communicate and to push out that content will just appear, and based, I think, probably very much on what the sales cycle is that any organization is working through. So for an organization, a smaller organization that can't do everything that AGI has done over the last, half a year, 8 months, if it's e-marketing, if it's just better social, if it's better thought leadership, if it's doing virtual trade shows, if it's engaging a dealer network, all the things, where should a smaller organization start?
That's a great question, Robert. So let me be preachy for a moment, okay? Whatever, humans have been selling stuff for 10,000 years or something like that. They started selling little trinkets of salt, and here we are today. In all of that time, the most powerful form of advertising has always been word of mouth. It's taken different forms. It's been, personal recommendations, it's been reviews, it's been advertorial, it's now social media. The reality is you've got to get in the social media game. So if you're going to start in one place, that's the place to start. Start small. Don't try to do 5 channels. The big 5, we talk about LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. Don't try to do all 5, pick one. Pick one and start there and go, okay, what's the most relevant channel to my business? Now, the stats are astonishing. I don't know what the latest is, but we do fairly regular research, and farmer consumption of either Twitter or Facebook is through the roof. Now, they also read magazines, they also read, Western Producer, they do tons of stuff as well. But they are incredibly heavy users of social media because they're often sitting, now you got, mostly driverless tractors and combines, or you have to just turn it at the end of the row, They got time to look at these things. So start with social media, decide how you're going to participate in it. My recommendation is that it should be value-added participation, right? Don't take positions, add content, engage people, be part of the discussion. Start small, pick 1 or 2 channels, and that's where you begin, and it will go from there. Then because I think the magic of social media is you're both talking and listening. It's a telephone, not a microphone, right? Remember that metaphor. It's a telephone. So you have to leave time for people to talk to you as much as you're talking to them, and then you'll learn so much about what you really need to say.
Question here from Susan. She's on the agency side, and so she wants to know, what do agency briefs, how can they be better to focus more on a business-minded approach? So whether that be production ROI, sales objectives, how do agency briefs need to evolve to talk more business?
Yeah, oh, that's an awesome question. So again, one thought on ROI right now. Look, if you get into the ROI bucket, unless you've got really tight coupon redemption, sales transaction, that I downloaded this coupon and I bought that product, everything falls into the world of attribution, right? Well, maybe I downloaded that coupon and I've had it in my wallet and I drove by a billboard and it was the billboard that made me, we don't know. So let's not get tied up in knots about ROI. We will get there, I think, probably in the short term, 3 years maybe, but don't get tied up in that right now. I think you need to focus on value proposition. What is the sales value proposition? Why do I buy this product? Not what's the benefit, not what's the attribute, but why should I actually buy this product? What's it doing for me, the farmer, and why does it make sense? Or me, the customer, whatever your category is. If you can start to answer that question, then you've got somewhere to go. Then you're adding real value to the transaction, right? So it's easy to say, you need to buy a $200,000 grain dryer because 3 years out of 10 the corn comes off wet and you need to dry it, and you save yourself costs and it pays for itself over 15 years. So that's all intellectually true, but it's not going to close the sale. So you've got to get to the value proposition of why I need this dryer at this time, understanding your target. I think agencies are genius at understanding targets. I think that's where their true strength lies. So paint me a picture, help me understand the persona, help me know who I'm targeting to, and then together with sales, and this is also where I think marketing is really critical. But if you don't have the resources in marketing, then together with sales, map out the value proposition. Why should I buy this? Why should I do this? If you can crystallize that, then I think you've added more business value to a brief. You've added enough business value to a brief. I think there's a great I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good word. It's almost like this guilt in the agency world. If they don't inject some business stuff, they're not doing a good enough job. I hear you, and that's really helpful. But that's probably a bridge too far for marketing right now, as it stands pretty much anywhere, with the odd few category exception. The real value is in getting to the value proposition and understanding that it'll actually sell. If we can do that, the rest will take care of itself.
Yes, us agency folks kind of vibrate at a very high level when it comes to that. So try to take off some of the pressure.
But boy, I tell you, you're super good. Like I love working with agency people when it comes to like, let's spend time on the target. Let's tell me who they are, what are they interested in, what are they thinking about, what hobbies, interests, what archetype are they, if you go that far and you really get into it. That stuff is really valuable. And then you can mix in a little voice of the customer. You can make it really fact-based. You can learn a ton. Just ask when you're doing this, maybe this is a box you could put in a brief, but it's like, what are the core objections that the target offers when you try to sell them this? Well, if you can answer those objections, you know what the value proposition is. That's more important to me than being able to attribute this coupon delivered, $20 of sales.
Interesting. Just a final question, and probably just quick, just based on the time. What does the future look like for AGI marketing? So I don't know what's the next 3 months, 6 months, year looks like. Is it inventing and launching new things from a marketing perspective, or is it optimizing all the stuff you've already been doing?
Well, it's both. It's both. You answered the question for me there. We can't be afraid to say this didn't work, so let's get rid of it. And that's so hard. It's so hard for everybody to go, oh, this was my baby. I really love AGI Live. It's been great. Now I have to kill it in favor of something else. It's so hard to do. But we got to put ourselves to that challenge to go, okay, this was good, but maybe it wasn't what we needed to do. And so we've got to optimize. I think that's sort of task one. Optimize what we have to consistently provide a good quality marketing output. That said, we have to be new. I think the onus on marketing, I think the people who work in media companies have a better metaphor, and I mangle it, but they basically told me one time that it's like 3 to 5 times the number of media buying you have to do to achieve the GRPs you had like 2 years ago. I think the same is true of marketing. We're going to need more and more tactics at a higher quality, and that's hard to bring off with a stagnant or flat team. The only pressure relief you have is to get rid of the stuff that isn't working, and slowly, that does happen. So it's both, unfortunately. It's optimize and new ideas.
And there goes the stress. Okay.
Exactly. That's why I drink green tea all the time.
All right, well, I want to thank David on behalf of everyone that's attended today and the CAMA Manitoba family, obviously for his insight really into how AGI's marketing is adapting and what it sounds like very much flourishing. We may not all be at the same level as an AGI. However, I do believe that there were many tips that can really be applied to any size organization. So thank you, David. And in lieu of a speaker gift, because we're not giving you anything, but what we are giving you is actually, we're going to make a donation to Agriculture in the Classroom Manitoba on your behalf. And that's the organization that the Manitoba Board is supporting here locally. And finally, I want to thank the volunteer board again that I mentioned earlier for putting together this webinar for a national audience. And thank you, Annex Business Media, for sponsoring today's webinar as well. I hope that everyone has a great remainder of the day.